Hi, welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, the host and founder of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the nonprofit organization behind this podcast and all of our wonderful programming, including Journey to Esquire, the blog, and Journey to Esquire, the scholarship and leadership program. Today, we are passing the mic to Kamilah O'Brien, aka the Focused Spender. Kamilah is an operations and financial nonprofit professional with a proven ability to create and optimize operational systems as well as manage billion with a B dollar budgets. So Kamilah graduated from NYU, New York University, with a Master's of Public Administration in General Finance, and she has $65,000 in student loan debt. So I know all about having that kind of debt from going to law school, and what she's going to do is share with us student loan debt reduction strategies and living your best financial life. Welcome, Kamilah.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you too, because you're one of my besties. Whoop, whoop. So we had Keita Burton Paul on our podcast, and Kamilah is another one of my group of friends that we've had since middle school. Almost 30 years.
I know, it seems like yesterday, kind of.
It does, yeah. And we've all gone on these journeys. So typically this is Journey to Esquire, so we usually talk about people's journeys to law school, but grad schools are pretty much the same in a lot of ways. Applying, taking the exam to get in, trying to figure out the best fit, and then taking on all these loans to pay for this education. So talk to us a little bit about what made you pursue your Master's of Public Administration.
So the reason why I decided to get a degree in public administration is because I went to college, I went to Boston University, and I got a degree in public relations. And I thought, honestly, when I went to school, I was not sure what I really wanted to do. And it sounded like a fun career. So I got my degree, I graduated, and pretty quickly I realized this is not at all what I wanted to do. And so I was fortunate enough to get a job at a nonprofit called Legal Outreach. So actually, now that I think about it, kind of ties all in. So we work with high school students, helping them enter the legal field through college and then through law school. And so working in that company, I realized I really wanted to work in the nonprofit sector, and I wanted to be a leader in that sector. So I thought, well, what can I do? And that's when I learned about public administration. And I decided if I want to advance in my career, I definitely need to get some type of master's degree. So that's why I decided to get that degree.
Awesome. And then what made you choose to go to NYU specifically?
Okay, so the reason why I decided on NYU is because I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in New York City for the rest of my life, even though I'm still here. And I really wanted to have a school with a solid name recognition, honestly. My other option was Baruch, which is a really good school. It's part of the City University of New York, but I thought if I want to stay in New York forever, that would be my perfect option, and it was definitely cheaper, but I wasn't sure. So I decided I needed to have something solid behind my name, and so I decided NYU is definitely the place to go, and honestly, I do not regret that decision.
Awesome. So now that's going to tie into a lot of what we're going to talk about, the student loan debt, right?
Yes.
So you graduated with $65,000 in student loans. I graduated with $75,000 after I graduated.
Okay. Actually, I had more. I have to be honest. I had about $75,000, but when I decided to aggressively pay it off, I was at $65,000.
Oh, good. So now we're going to talk about some of those strategies. I decided to aggressively pay it off as well. And I think we both initially used Dave Ramsey's system, Total Money Makeover system.
Yes, we did.
And I paid mine off in almost 4 years. How long did it take for you to pay it off?
The $65,000 part, 3 years.
Yeah. So that plan works. If you
it sure did. It definitely did work.
Yeah, so you have your business, The Focused Spender LLC, and we're going to provide all your contact information in the show notes. But what we're going to do is we're going to break down our little talk first into like pre-grad school, pre-law school, strategies you can use to minimize your student loan debt or eliminate it if possible. Then you're going to have while you're in school what you can do, and then upon graduation, because we have students and new lawyers and people who haven't even been in law school yet listening, so we want to make sure everyone is covered. So let's start out with, okay, you're thinking about grad school. What strategies would you say people should use to minimize or eliminate student loan debt if they can?
So the number one thing I would say is that while you're even thinking about the graduate school process or law school, really start saving your money. So you're working, hopefully you're working, you may have some college debt and you might be paying those student loans off, but at the same time, you really should be stacking your cash so that you can minimize your student loans. When I was applying for school, I was still living at home and I was not paying rent. So I was already saving a lot of money. So when I decided to go to grad school, I already knew that I would not have to take out as much loans because I had cash to at least pay for a part of my loans. But then also thinking about like what school you're going to go to. So like I said earlier, when I was deciding between NYU and Baruch, I really did think really heavily about Baruch because Baruch was a $10,000 degree and NYU was a $40,000 degree. So that was a huge, huge difference. So really think about where you want to be in life, where you want to go next when you're making that decision, because you don't want to go to a school that you don't really need to go to. You don't need to pay $60,000, $70,000 for a grad school or a law school when, another school might actually really serve the purpose of your career. So really think about that when deciding which school to go to.
Okay, so that's a great strategy. And we know with grad school, it's not like college, right? College is a little easier to get into than grad school. Grad school, you got to get in where you fit in.
Got to take the GMATs, the LSAT, the MCATs.
Yeah, whatever. So that score plays a role, but then also, they have different admission standards and they have different levels of competitiveness. But if you are blessed enough to have more than one option, then what I'm hearing you say is be careful about just making assumptions about which one is better. Like have a holistic view of what's going to make sense for you. Okay, great. And stack that cash. Live at home with the parents, no shame if they will allow you back in.
And the funny thing is that I knew that I did not want to live at home when I went to grad school, because my family, like I remember your family, my family was, large, rambunctious. It was always people in our house. I knew that I was going to move right before grad school started, but I just made sure that I saved enough money to live off of in my new apartment and also to have something to pay out of pocket when school started.
Yeah, and now with everyone working from home and schooling from home, that becomes even more important, trying to figure out if you're going to have a quiet space where you can handle yourself professionally. So like I said,
exactly.
In class, we'll see people passing by, like I'm blocking the door now, so you don't see my son running around, doing something unusual. And yeah, so that's definitely something to keep in mind.
So one other point that I forgot to make that really was a great strategy for me is that I knew I only wanted to take out government loans. So I did not want to take out any private loans. So I knew that at the time, I think the max per year was $18,000. I think the max per year was $18,000. So when I was thinking about how much money to save, I wanted to save enough that I only had to take out government loans. I did not want to take out any private loans. So really do that math so that you're getting the loan that makes that's the cheapest possible for you.
Yes, so that's another good point. Do your research. There are different kinds of loans. There are private loans and then there are federally backed loans. When you hear about government incentives and stimulus and forgiveness, they're only talking about the government loans.
Exactly. So you want those federal loans because those interest rates are fixed. When you get a private loan, you could end up with a variable rate and then, it might start off at 2% and then next thing you know, it's 5% and next thing you know, it's 10% and then you can't afford to do anything. So definitely stick with the federal loans.
And with consolidation, that's another thing that we're going to talk about. Not too in-depth, but knowing in advance what types of loans you have will let you know what options you'll have when you graduate and you're trying to pay it all off. So now let's transition to you're in grad school. You're living off of these loans, right? We've used the strategies we talked about. We stacked as much cash as we could. We stuck to the federal loans as much as possible. Now, what do you recommend students who are currently in grad school to do to minimize student loan debt?
So the one thing I did is that I made a decision to keep working. So like I said, I moved out of my house right before I started grad school. And so there was no way, actually, there was a way. I could have taken out private loans to pay for my living expenses. And honestly, a lot of my friends did that. They went to school full time and they, either they took unpaid internships or they just took a break from working. But at some point I was like, I'm not going to pay for loans. I'm not going to take out loans to live and for school. I just want the loans for school, so I need to keep working. For me, that meant that I wasn't working full time, but I was working pretty much full time. I was working 30 hours a week, and then I lived in Brooklyn and I worked in Harlem, so that was an hour-long commute. So then I had to use that study time on the train to help balance it out. But really think about what you need in terms of loan. Do you need that loan to pay your car note? Do you need that loan to pay your rent? And if you do, maybe you're biting off way more than you can chew. And so think about how you can reduce exactly what you're taking out. And then the other thing you can do is that you can start paying off your student loans while you're in school. So the thing about federal loans is that, or the thing about if you have a subsidized loan is that your interest rate is not going to accrue. Your interest is not going to accrue while you're in school. So then if you start paying off those loans while you're in school, when you graduate, the principal will be reduced and then you'll owe less. So if you can work so that you don't have to take out as many loans, definitely do that. And if you make enough that you can start paying down on your loans while you're in school, definitely do that.
Yeah, I had law school friends who did that. No, I didn't have any money to do that.
Oh, so no. The funny thing is in college, one of my friends, by the time we graduated, he paid off all his student loans. Wow. At 21. And I remember when he was saying, oh yeah, I'm paying down on my student loans. I'm like, how are you doing that? First of all, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
And then on the other part was like, where are you even getting this money from? But he just had better jobs than I did. So you can pay off your loans while you're still in school, or start paying them down if you can afford it.
Yes. And then the biggest benefit of that is you reduce your interest, because a lot of people,
exactly,
they're not just paying the money they borrowed to go to school.
They're paying all the interest.
Chunk is the interest. Yep.
It is. I think that was part of the reason why I was so interested in paying off my student loans quickly. It's because I looked at how much interest I was going to pay if I, followed their schedule versus what I would pay if I just did it really fast. And I thought, what? They don't need my money. I need that money. So let me just go ahead and see what I can do to pay this off really quickly.
Yeah, and my first year of paying student loans, I paid $10,000 and all went to interest.
Exactly.
$10,000.
Exactly. Girl, you and I, we can use that money.
I was like, down payment for a house, my new car, savings for my future child. I'm like, and if I had invested $10,000 that year,
exactly,
that's, even with the recession that was going on then, because it was 2009, we were still kind of in the recession.
But that was the best time to invest because everything was so low. So you put that money in while it's low, and then boom, skyrockets.
Yes.
Huge difference.
And so that's what we're trying to get students to understand. This isn't monopoly money. A lot of students I'll just be paying student loans the rest of my life, whatever. Yeah, but that is real money.
This is real money.
Mm-hmm.
I not to blow up the spot of anyone in my family, but I would hear sometimes, this is when I was in high school, I would hear people in my family talk about, oh, I got my refund check for my loan. And I'm like, what is a refund check? And so basically, the loan is $10,000, maybe school costs $7,000. And so then they get a $3,000 check, and then they would start spending it like it was their money to spend it, which makes absolutely no sense. You need to either return that money or tell them to reduce the price of the amount of your loan so that you don't have all this extra money that you're using to just go shopping and buy clothes and things that, are just unnecessary.
Right. I know people took out bar loans to take vacation. And I said,
what?
That's not free money.
Nope. That's when you call somebody like, can I get a couple $100, please? Start asking, get a little job, do something, but not a loan to go on vacation.
Yes.
Like,
and those are expensive loans.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's avoid that, but we're using these debt reduction strategies. So now we're in recent grads. So, we're recording this at a time where we're in between, we're kind of in the summer time. Students are either just graduated or they're entering their last year or last term of school. And with everything going on with the pandemic, the economy has slowed. A lot of people aren't hiring because they just don't know if they're going to have a need. And so what are some strategies you have for students generally and during this time of what they can do to reduce their student loan debt? And talk a little bit about the process, because there's like a 6-month window, before you have to pay, and there's options to consolidate. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, like you said, there is that 6-month grace period where you don't have to pay down your student loans. So that's a good time to start saving as well. If you do have a job, I'm not sure with the legal field, because I'm not familiar with it. I don't know how it's going to be affected. So I don't know if that means for the time being, just getting a different type of job until things pick back up. But if you are working, make sure that you are budgeting your money so that you are reducing any unnecessary expenses and that you are holding on to some cash. You may even want to, I think you should be able to start paying down on the loans if you'd like without messing up your interest. But if not, if your interest is not going to accrue during that period, you might as well just hold on to that money just in case. But then I would also say, like Jocelyn and I both did, read the book, The Total Money Makeover, because it definitely gives a lot of tips. So one thing, I literally just did a video about this the other day where I was talking about like tips that you can use to manage your money right now. And the one thing I would say is, this is the time to start side hustling. Like, look, obviously you want to have your job, but then you also want to look for multiple streams of income, because you may get a job and it may not be the job you want. It may not pay what you think you should. It may not pay the amount that you were expecting. Like when I graduated from grad school, my first job, I think I made $55,000 and I had $65,000 worth of debt. So, I'm actually had $75,000. So I'm making less than what I was earning. And so when I realized that, and I remember that 6-month grace period, at first I was fine because I had enough money to pay all my bills. But then that first loan bill came and I was like, this is almost as much as I'm paying for my co-op every single month. And that's when like the light bulbs, switched off in my head, like I need to do something. So for me, like I said, I just had to start side hustling to make an extra income. I had to adjust my 401k so that I was still, investing enough to get the match, but then I had extra money. And then whenever I had extra money, when I would pay my taxes, and because I was paying so much in student loan interest, I was getting a nice return. And so I would just take all that money and I would just put it towards the student loan. I would keep a little bit for myself so that I didn't feel deprived, but for the most part, I would just take the rest to make really, really large payments on my student loans. So I know it's going to be tough. I feel like every time I've graduated in a time of some type of recession. So 2002, it may not have been as bad as 2008, but there was an economic, downturn at that time. And then grad school, I graduated in 2007. So the very next year they were laying people off in my job. Thank God I didn't get laid off, but the very next year that was happening. And then, now with everything going on. So I definitely know it's stressful. It's hard, but eventually, we'll come through, hopefully. Hopefully we'll come through to the other side of it. So time to persevere and buckle down.
Yeah, because I graduated in 2009, right after the 2008 housing market crash. And thankfully, I was able to still have my job. Some people right now are being asked to wait 6 months, or their job offers are rescinded, because this is a much more unpredictable time than just a recession. We've been through recessions and depressions and understand that. And we have been through pandemics before. 1918 Spanish flu one was the most well-known one being circulated now. But certainly people still need legal services. And so that's not a thing that's going away. People still need financial accounting services. People still need professionals working in their businesses to help the businesses run. And so you're talking about a side hustle, which is great because Keita also talked about side hustles.
Yes.
So your side hustle is Focus Spender, obviously. So talk to us a little more about Focus Spender and tell our listeners where they can find this video you're talking about, where you broke down some of these strategies.
Okay, so Focus Spender came to me. Let's see how they come to me. So years ago when YouTube first started, I used to watch all the hair videos. I just loved watching hair videos on YouTube. And one night, me and my sister were talking and we were like, we should have a YouTube channel. But now I lived in New York and my sister was in California. So we really couldn't figure out how we were gonna bring this YouTube channel together. This is before Zoom. So there was no like, oh, we'll be on video together. It was just, you know, you have to pretty much do it separately. And so I remember thinking like, well, what would I even talk about? I don't do hair, I don't do makeup, so I'm not gonna do anything like that. I wanna talk about something that I know that I'm going through. And at the time I was reading The Total Money Makeover, I was paying down on my debt. And so it did not at all start out as a side hustle. It literally just started out as me wanting to share what I was learning with people. So that's how I started it. I just, you know, turned on my computer and I just made a video about what I was doing. And then a few years later, I started noticing people putting ads in their videos. And I thought, I wonder how they're doing that. But again, I didn't do anything. And then finally Google reached out to me and they allowed me to put ads on my videos. And that's how, you know, that was the beginnings of it turning into a side hustle. I mean, it was a side hustle at that time that was making $500 a year. So it wasn't doing much. But you know, as I continued to grow with it, I really just always wanted to share what it was that I was doing at that time with my money. And so I've been able to grow my channel to about 40,000 subscribers. I do a lot of videos on investing and like how to build wealth, how to get out of debt. And so the videos that I have about student loans, I have a video that documented, actually I have a few videos about how I paid off my student loan debt, what I did with my money after I paid off my debt, and then just different budgeting strategies that I employed. So if you want to see that video, or if you want to see any of those videos, if you go to youtube.com/focusedspender, it'll pop right up.
Yeah, and then they can go to focusspender.com to get more information about your products and services.
Yes. So if you go, like you said, if you go to focusspender.com, one thing that I encourage everyone to look up is I have a free download called the 5 Payday Mistakes that keep you from growing your saving and investment accounts and how to fix them. And so that gives a lot of strategies on what you can be doing to manage your money so that you are saving more money. If you are ready to invest, then you can invest. But if you're not ready to invest, you can use it to help you have that extra money to pay down your student loans.
Oh, that's an excellent resource. So definitely go get that. And now we're going to go to the part where Diversity Access Pipeline Inc., right? So we got to talk about our ideals: inclusion, diversity, equity, access, leadership, and service. So Kamilah, tell us about your story about diversity and grad school and what you want to share with our viewers.
So it's funny, when I went to grad school felt a lot more diverse than college. So I went to NYU, and I think, I could just be making this up, but I think the Black population is probably anywhere between 10 and 30%. I don't know. But, you know, coming from my college, Boston University, which was 1 or 2%, it felt like, you know, the world had opened up to me. And so thinking about like growing up, in my family, thankfully, education has been a huge part of everyone's lives. I have a few teachers in my family, but I was the first person, actually I was in the first generation of students who decided to go away to school. So my family, everybody went to CUNY, City University of New York. And my grandmother, I remember she was saying, you could go to Baruch just like your cousin. There's no reason There's no reason to go away to school. And I really, really wanted to go away. It wasn't so much me going to a private university. I just wanted to experience something new. And I'm glad I did, because that also helped me keep my student loans down, because I went to a school like Boston University, which is not diverse. And but it is a private university with a large endowment. So I was able to access a lot of money in scholarships and private grants. With NYU, it was a little bit different because they are a lot more diverse. But then that allowed me to, round out that experience. So what I lost in college, I was able to pretty much get it in grad school. So I was really happy for that.
Yeah, I had a similar experience too, because I went to a private university, large endowment, and they were working really hard to diversify, and they knew one of the biggest barriers was just the cost.
Exactly.
Right? We're in New York City with this whole city university system, and at the time, I think tuition was $3,000 a year.
Wow. Yeah,
I
believe
and then
it.
my private, because I applied to Boston University too, and I said, how much?
They gave me all the money. They didn't give you anything.
They gave me a partial, and I said, no, I think they gave me a good package, but it's just, even honestly, I went to my mom and I said, I have to make the cash deposit payment. Mm-hmm. And Fordham was like $200 and Boston was like $400. And my mom said, I don't have $400.
Yeah.
That's how the decision of which school I was going to was made. She did not have the $400 deposit. She said, I can do $200. And so I said, I guess I'm going to Fordham, and that was it. And which saved money too, because I didn't have to move and deal with all of that. But I did stay on campus, so I was away, but I was still in New York City.
I remember coming to visit you in college.
Oh yeah, y'all love the food for some reason.
I don't know. I think we just like going to different universities and
and visiting,
tasting their food. Our food was pretty good, so it was like, okay, our food is good. How's the food over there?
And I went to see y'all in Boston. That was lots of fun. But I remember my nephews, this one funny story. They were, elementary school age, and my brother and I both had gone away. He went to Buffalo University, and I went to Fordham. And they're like, so we're talking about college, and they said, we don't want to go to college. I was like, wait, what? Why? They're like, because they take you away. And in their mind, it was just, they took our favorite aunt and uncle away. And we're like, you never know how things are perceived. And again, that's part of why we have this podcast and the blog and everything we do, to peel away some perceptions or wrong perceptions or imperceptions. Yeah. And so you've given us a lot to think about, Kamilah, about how to get our student loan debt under control and how to tackle them, and just even knowing that you do not have to live with them the rest of your life. If you're able and you want to, there is a way to pay them off in a short period of time so that you can save on all that interest and put the money towards the things you really want to spend it on.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
The Focus Spender. And if you want more information, go to focusspender.com. Check out her great YouTube channel, youtube.com/focusspender. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.